When I talk about Thomas and Friends being more than a kids show, I always refer to the classic era of Thomas and Friends and how they played with things like tone and story to show that it didn't pander to kids. And one thing that I noticed, they liked to bury engines alive. There are a lot of instances in the classic era of engines being buried alive. So I went and counted them all and came up with 7 episodes in the classic era of Thomas and Friends where engines were buried alive. I had to set a little bit of a criteria around it, is that they have to have been buried by something falling on top of them, and they have to be mostly covered. So for example, if they run into a snowdrift or they run into something, that doesn't count as being buried, it counts as a crash. But if they ran into, say, a snowdrift and then snow fell on top of them, covering them up, that counts as being buried alive. Bear in mind, these are my personal opinions, and let me know in the comment section if there are other instances that you think I have missed out where engines were buried alive in Thomas and Friends. All I ask, be respectful, and above all, enjoy the video. Okay, let's dive in. There's a poor choice of words for this video. Let's start with Season 2, Thomas, Percy, and the coal. Thomas is buried under coal, and he's covered from smoke box to bunker. So that technically counts as a burial. Not a complete burial, but a burial nonetheless. Because you still see his face, and the side of him isn't that buried. But when they say he's covered in it from smoke box to bunker, yeah, I count that. Which leads us to another episode from Season 2, The Deputation, when Donald and Douglas are clearing snowdrifts, and they charge at one, and Henry is buried under snow. Very fleeting for the start of an episode, but he is buried under snow, and they don't realise that it is actually an engine and not a snowdrift. Which then leads us to Thomas and the missing Christmas tree, where Thomas is collecting a Christmas tree, crashes into a snowdrift, and when he's trying to get out, there's an avalanche and snow completely covers him. Then we move on to Season 4, in the episode Grandpuff. The image is literally right behind me. Duke, Stuart, and Falcon are all looking to be sold off as the mines in the hill are closing. They take Stuart and Falcon, but they don't take Duke because they think he's too old. So driver and fireman snug him in a shed, hose it over, and go to find work. And while Duke is asleep, years pass, mudslides, trees and bushes grow all around, and Duke is buried alive. Season 5, Put Upon Percy. Percy is overworked, taking trucks to a mine. The trucks go out of control, the mine collapses, and as Percy's making a run for it, he hides under essentially a sheet of tarpaulin, while everything buries him, the driver, and fireman around it. Another Season 5 episode, Snow. And 3 engines are buried in this. Percy is buried at the start of the episode. Then Skarloey is buried in the story that Rusty talks about in the flashback. Then at the end, Gordon gets buried in the snow. Season 6 takes a step back from the burials, and then they come right back in Season 7. Bill, Ben, and Fergus, where Fergus is buried under a bunch of slate from the quarry while trying to save Bill and Ben from suffering that fate. So that is every incident of engines being buried alive in the classic era of Thomas and Friends. A short but sweet video, but it proves one thing. This series loved to bury engines alive. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on chugging.